Welcome back to a best-of-3 series of professional StarCraft 2. Today it's time for a Terran versus Zerg, where in game number 1 we find ourselves on 2,000 atmospheres. Spawning right here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, playing with the red Terran SCVs from France and playing for Team Liquid, we have none other than Clem. And his opponent in the opposite corner with the blue Zerg drones, the man formerly known as Vanya. He changed his name probably about a half year or so ago at this point. He now goes by the name of Rattata. Not a Pokemon, he's actually a Zerg player. Anyways, in this particular best-of-3 series, I've heard that in game number 2, Mr. Clem goes for a bit of a crazy build. Now, rather than just casting, game number 2, I figured I may as well cast the entire best-of-3 series. But I do want to pay some special attention to the shenanigans that Mr. Clem decides to go for. Recently, over the last, I want to say, half year or so as well, actually. Maybe that's linked, I don't know. Maybe there's some sort of connection between, Vanya changing his nickname and Clem. No, all jokes aside, Clem has been looking more and more mortal in Terran versus Zerg in particular. I want to say about a year ago, he was basically unbeatable in this matchup. No one really had his number. Even guys like Raynor and Cyril were regularly losing against him. But Clem recently, at the very least, has been looking like he's a man of flesh and blood. I know, kind of crazy. Anyways, don't get me wrong though. Clem, still the rank 6 overall in the world right now. Mr. Rattata, rank 40th. So there's definitely still a little bit of a skill level difference between these two. But it is going to be a fun series, I think, to have a look at, especially since I haven't been casting as many of Clem's games recently, and I also haven't casted Rattata in a little while. So we should get ourselves a nice little update when it comes to these two players. Rattata definitely overall a very European macro Zerg, right? But he's certainly not afraid to go for some aggressive roach pushes or some Ling Bane bust or something along the lines of, some sort of aggression. But usually I think his default is a very macro-focused state where you basically just defend, and then eventually overwhelm the opponent. The problem is, right, you need to get that tempo advantage. And we all know that Clem is extremely good when it comes to target firing down things like Banelings, right, and microing multiple dropships and all that all around the map. And yeah, getting that tempo lead against someone of the caliber of Clem is going to be very hard. So I'm curious to see if Mr. Rattata decides to go for some, maybe aggressive openers here himself as well. We'll find out. So far, though, everything's looking normal. I mean, I haven't been paying, attention to the exact second as far as the opener here goes. But good control here on the Zerglings. Well, except for that one. Oh my god, it disappeared. Did you see that? Then suddenly the blood appeared and that was magical. I don't know what happened just now to that Zergling. I think it got blown up by the Reaper grenade. Then its corpse disappeared, blood appeared on the ground, and then a second later it was gone. Wiped off of the sea floor, I guess, on 2000 at most. A little bit of an animation bug, I'm assuming here. Anyways. Let's see. So, standard 1-1-1 right here from Clem. Barracks into a factory and then eventually into a starport as well. Whereas on the other side of the map, we've got ourselves the good old classic with the quick third hatchery right here from the Zerg as well. He's already gonna, alright, resaturate the third, or the 3 drones right here into the gas geyser, which is fair enough. Normally you actually see Zerg players wait a little bit longer with that, if I'm not mistaken, but maybe that's a change that the top level Zergs have recently been adding back. For a while there, people weren't pulling any drones out of gas, or sometimes we pull 1 drone out of gas, or sometimes 2, and sometimes all 3 of them. It seems to mostly be a stylistic change. Kind of depends as well on what kind of follow-up you want to go for. If Zerg goes for an Overlord Scout, usually it comes up right about right now. Usually between 3:45 and 4 minutes or so is a good time to try and get that Overlord into the main base of the Terran. The problem is, of course, that there's already a Marine patrolling back and forth. It could be gunning down this Overlord, forcing it to go back on the pillar, making sure that the Zerg player is in the dark, but I guess that Clem doesn't really care all too much. He is going to go for the 3rd command center right here at the front, and, well, this is already going to give Rattata maybe not all of the information, but at least the vast majority of it, right? So, 9 times out of 10, if you see a 3rd command center starting up at this time, it is going to be a 1-1-1. Obviously, with the 1-1-1, there's still a lot of variety, so in this particular case, it's going to be Hellions, together with that one Reaper from earlier, as well as now a Liberator. This is something that Clem has been playing for, well, like 3 years at this point. It's one of the builds where he looked unbeatable with. Okay, he is going to be able to sneak a bunch of those Hellions into the base. Evo Chamber block over here. Couple of Zerglings are going to run back as well. Not really liking this all too much, though, here for the Frenchman. Great defense right there by Rattata. At the same time, there is some aggression over here, too. Drones are stacked together. But the Liberator is also going to be pushed back relatively easily. Yeah, impressive stuff here so far by the Zerg. It's very easy to fall behind. That was only about a heartbeat away from being an entire Zerg barbecue in the mineral line. The Hellions, though, in the end there, only 2 of them have gone down, actually. It's not the end of the world at all, but it did seem like they got the short end of the trade. Alright. What are we doing? Lair is a follow-up right now. I'm expecting, yep, the Baneling Nest here already. Double Evo. Usually the Lair is a little bit quicker than this. Pretty sure you want to start up the Lair and then the Baneling Nest. Broadly speaking, there's 2 Zerg openers. One where you go for the double Evo chamber first. Curious positioning on those, by the way. And then the other one where you go for the Lair and then into a very quick and instant Baneling speed. In this particular case, I guess Rattata started up the Baneling Nest but forgot the Lair. Now he's kind of just doing the same thing. I mean, it doesn't really matter in the end if Terran doesn't punish him for it. With this sort of build order, I mean, Clem can certainly try, but I do think that Rattata will probably have enough time here to get the Baneling speed out regardless. But there are certainly some openers where Terrans will go for some, hyper-aggression, and it can be quite tricky to actually hold against those openers without the Baneling speed. Oh, really? Okay, there's a medevac. Oh. Dude, this Overlord, man. He needs a name. This is Otto the Overlord. Otto laughs in the face of danger. Didn't mind hanging out there. Didn't mind getting shutted by the Marines. And even when the medevac showed up, he wasn't scared. The medevac's, of course, providing the high ground vision there for those Marines to gun it down. Somehow, some way, none of the Marines, I guess, were in range? Maybe it's some sort of magical location where the Marines can't hit it. Anyways. Oop. Hellbat's joining in the fray as well. But very nicely done. Love the fact that he actually, well, if he would have gotten the Hellbats, I would have loved the fact that he actually kept those Zerglings in the back, not sacrificing any of the Banelings unnecessarily either. I do think, though, eventually, maybe not. Yeah, the Hellions, okay. The Hellions, when they're turned into Hellbats, get healed by a medevac. This is one of the things that StarCraft science can't explain. So, a Hellion is considered a mechanical unit. However, a Hellbat is mechanical and biological, meaning that a Hellbat can be repaired as well as healed by a medevac simultaneously. It's some sort of crazy thing, man. I don't see how it makes any sense either, but the medevacs almost came in clutch right there, allowing those Hellbats to stay alive for a little while longer. Anyways. Yeah, this is kind of what I was talking about, right? So, okay. Rattata just going for the very classical, very normal opener. Where you go for Hydraling Bane initially, and then I guess eventually into Lurkers. Lurker play has become a little bit less popular over the last month or so, ever since the new multiplayer balance patch went live. But so far you can see the man is certainly on point when it comes to defending against all the aggression here from Clem. Not really running into a whole lot of problems. His strategy here is to defend, and then eventually get a bunch of Lurkers out. I think at the very least is what he's going for. He should start up a Hive right now, as well as a Lurker den. Assuming he's paying attention. Okay, there's the Hive. And I'm expecting a Lurker den here. The idea being that you go for both of the Lurker upgrades as soon as you get towards the Hive tech. And then usually what we see is like 10 or so Lurkers being morphed in all at once, and then they just walk on over towards the planetary. That's usually right over here. You burrow it right next to it, and then the planetary dies, and Terran's like, what? I could have not known that was gonna happen. It's a bit strange. I've seen literally that exact game about 6 times. There's the Lurker den. And yeah, for some reason, it still seems to catch a lot of Terran players off guard. I would actually wager it's better to sometimes morph this. In this scenario, right? I think that Clem knows where this is going. I'm probably wrong, but I feel like it would be a good idea to make this an orbital command so you can lift it. You know, it's obviously gonna be less good, I guess, against things like Zerglings and stuff, but I don't know, man. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I have seen planetaries go down to like 10 Lurkers so many times that it seems silly. But pretty much always the 4th CC, historically, at least in StarCraft 2, it's always turned into a planetary. Yep, there it is. Anyways, Clem doesn't want the game to go that long, though. Sieges the siege tanks very far forward. Yeah, loses them pretty much right away, and that's all that Rattata really needs. The medevacs aren't much of a problem, okay. I mean, if there's no splash damage in this, good targeting right here, though, from the Terran. The problem is, yeah, without the siege tanks here to to provide some additional support. It's not going to happen. There's a Viper coming up. There's the very first burrow upgrade right here. For those lurkers, we'll probably see the seismic spines already queued up as well. That's going to give him some additional range. Okay, planetary is done. Maybe that's why you go for the planetary, right? He probably would have been in some trouble if... yeah, maybe not. Dude, if we're going to see like 10 lurkers just burrow right over here and kill the planetary... I mean, I'm going to go out and buy a lottery ticket, okay? At that point, I can apparently predict the future. Not a bad idea. Anyways, Ghost Academy coming up. Adrenal Glands coming up as well for the Zerg. I would like to see some lurkers, man. Alright. Clem going in for another move. Siege tanks over here. Looks like they, well, at the very least, one of them will stay alive. Okay, very far back this time around with the tanks, but no Marines in front to buffer. Clem loses another... I think he's lost like 5 or 6 siege tanks for... Well, basically free. I mean, I don't want to say free, but... Uncharacteristically, let's go with that. 50 Zerglings coming up. That's Rattata making sure that he can actually spend some of his minerals and save some of his, save some of his gas up. Can we please see some lurkers? Yep, there you go. 9 lurkers. Dude, if those lurkers are gonna morph... just walk over there... I will literally be the smartest StarCraft commentator ever, okay? Okay, maybe not. Alright, Seismic Spines just about to finish. Here's the lurkers. Okay, Blinding Cloud here on the planetary. He needs to be a little bit closer. Seismic Spines isn't done yet. That gives additional range to those lurkers, so it's a bit of an awkward spot. But imagine, right? You could actually lift up the planetary here. Okay, that was a little bit of miscontrol right there for Rattata. I think he should have actually shown up like 10 seconds later with the ranged upgrade done. Alright, never mind, guys. I can't predict the future. But imagine if that would have been... I guess it's got 24 kills. Yeah, never mind. I'm wrong. I do feel like, though, at some point in the meta of StarCraft, we'll probably see Terran players making a orbital command out of their 4th rather than a planetary. Anyway. Siege tanks, a little bit late once again. Banelings? No? Ah, okay. They do decide to go around. And so far, honestly, Rattata is doing just fine. I think a lot of people would... Oh my god, okay, at the same time, there was a drop over here, sniping a hatchery real quick. I do think most people would look at this matchup and think, okay, there's gonna be an easy 2-0 for Clem. But, yeah, despite the fact that Clem just sniped a hatchery here, 22 SCVs is definitely more valuable than 1 additional hatch. There's plenty of mineral fields that Rattata can mine from at this point. I would like to, at the very least, see him transfer over some of those drones. Anyways, Terran, now gonna go into the ghosts. We're gonna go into some ghost siege tank. Liberators maybe later on as well, but ghosts obviously are the go-to option. Clem apparently requesting a bit of a pause there. Tech lab being rebuilt right there on the factory. We did see drilling claws, yeah, but no widow mines. Here we go. Snipes. Blinding Cloud. Lurkers, though, getting underneath. Apparently today I'm casting in singular words. Lurkers, Zerglings, Blinding Cloud, Medivacs, Banelings. Run by! It's only the Monday as I'm recording this video. This week is off to a great start. This is a good game, actually. Another 21 workers going down. Look at this Rattata. Just, yeah. Getting himself a nice little lead. Clem realizes it's going to be near impossible to get back, and he taps out. Well, that's going to make the build order that Clem apparently goes for here even more interesting. Because he's 1-0 behind against Rattata. Someone who he probably wants to beat. Right? So it must mean that he actually really believes in the build. So what I've heard, right, is that apparently he plays a very quick double engineering bay build. Which I have seen before, I think from Hero Marine. I think actually on this map as well, if I recall correctly. But anyways. I mean, when it comes to, like, attributing who, like, you know, came up with a build order. That's pretty hard to say anyways. Maybe it's one of the Korean Terrans. They generally like to play pretty aggressively. It's always hard to say. Like, it's a community effort, right? Like, all of the top players, they basically look at each other's games and they pick and choose whatever they like from the, well, I guess the competitor, right? And eventually they will incorporate it into their own games as well. So, I don't know. To give someone full credit for coming up with a build is always a little bit tricky. Other than maybe, like, the Bly builds, okay? Those are, you know, maybe the Haas builds, right? Maybe the Max Specs opener, right? Those things are relatively straightforward. But when it comes to more macro-focused builds, it's hard to say. Anyways. So, like I said, I have seen a double NG Bay built really quickly from Hero Marine. I wonder if that's the same thing that Mr. Clem goes for as well. I think he started up his at, like... He starts up 2 at, like, 3 minutes and 10 seconds. Something along those lines. Anyways. So far, everything looks very normal here, though, from Clem. He's going into the Singular Reaper. Going for the SCV Scout as well. He really does not want to be caught off guard. And then the Command Center on the low ground. This is, yeah, basically the safest way in which you can open up. The norm is to go for a Marine here as a follow-up as well after this very first Reaper. Just to make sure that Zerg can't really scout. And if it would have been a pull first, you can still kind of like... I guess you make sure here that it's not a pull first with the SCV Scout. But yeah, it's still nice to make sure you don't die to anything stupid. And then eventually into a reactor, and then also obviously that factory, you do the big switcheroo. And then you can start pumping out those Hellions 2 at a time. I hope I got the correct series. Because so far this is looking very conventional. Okay, here goes the Reaper into the natural. Okay, so no second gas here yet from the Terran. That is something worth noting. There's the third command center as well. Okay, that's a very quick third command center. If Clem is actually gonna start up Evo chambers between right now and half a minute, that would be a little bit crazy. Especially against someone like Vanya, who's not afraid to go for like a roach push or something along those lines. I would imagine a second barracks. Like a second barracks tech lab on that one, second gas. Okay, there is the tech lab. Oh my god. There's NG Bay number 1. He is gonna be very low in the gas though, and there's NG Bay number 2. Okay, so 3 minutes and 20 seconds on a double engineering bay. Let me just tell you why this is risky, right? So what does Terran have at this point in the game? He's got 1 Reaper, 1 Marine, and 2 Hellions. And then triple command center, and then soon to be double upgrades. Yeah, Stimpack is gonna be delayed with an opener like this. I think he mostly just gets the tech lab here. To like, maybe if like Overlord scouts come in, he could like, you know, show that he's got I don't know. I feel like you don't really need the tech lab yet at this point. And then eventually a second Rex. Especially when you're 1-0 behind and you know your opponent is not afraid to, you know, throw down a Roach Warren at like 3.5 minutes. At this point, there's no way Clem could really know that either, right? For all he knows, there could be a Roach Warren here and double gas in the natural. And then just an all-out assault right here from Rattata. But, okay, so I think when I've seen other Terran players play a similar build, it's not so much the 1-1 that will finish up really early on. It's the 2-2. So, I might be mistaken, but I think Clem is probably going to try and do maybe a little bit of a push when... Okay, so Rattata gets in here. He scouts this. Anyways, I think it's most... Like, maybe he's going to try some pressure here with the 1-1 finishing up, but he's probably going to go for an all-out, all-in as soon as, like, the 2-2 finishes. Anyways, this is what Rattata scouted. Does that give him enough? Okay, he decides to go Lair and then a Baneling Nest. So this is that very quick Baneling speed opener into double upgrades eventually. Look at this, man. So this is quick upgrades as well from Rattata. Terran's gonna finish up a 1-1. Okay, there's the armory as well. Yes, that's gonna allow him to go straight into 2-2. Zerg is gonna start up 1-1 by the time the Terran player is finishing up a 1-1. Come on, Rattata. Okay, there he goes. Look at this. It's so risky though because you died to literally anything. Obviously, especially against European Zergs, they will 9 times out of 10 go for, yeah, the macro opener, right? They will go for the very standard, very laid-back approach where they just absorb punches, and then eventually they will try and overwhelm you. Okay. There's finally the medevac production. 1-1 is done at this point. Stimpack isn't. There's 2-2. I mean, we should start up the second upgrade too. There it is. Okay. So 6 minutes into the game, +2/+2 is coming up. Rattata doesn't know what's happening. He has no clue. He's been trying to scout. He's seen, okay, it's a quick third command center from the Terran. He has seen, okay, it's additional barracks here, right? So Clem is going triple CC bio, right? Very normal. Not something that, yeah, is uncommon. But obviously, you know, he skipped any potential for Liberator play, any potential for, well, a Benchy opener, right? A battle cruiser, anything along those lines. Not going to happen. So literally any sort of early game roach pushing would have just won the game, especially since Stimpack only just now started up. He does need to start up combat shields, though. Mr. Clem, you do need to have okay, there it is. Probably actually on point. Yeah, no, it's actually fine. Basically, he needs to finish up combat shields by the time that 2-2 is done, which is gonna hit like an absolute truck. So for now, Terran's just roaming the map, trying to be annoying. You don't want to lose anything here. Okay, he lost 2 Hellions so far, but he's got some good value. Ideally, I think you want to have the creep push back a little bit further, though, because you do want to go in, I think, for the kill. I'd be very surprised if Clem just decides to go into 3-3 and ghosts and all that. I think it's going to be like a 3-base all-in. There is barracks number, what is that? 6, 7, and 8? Okay, yeah, that's an all-in. So it's triple command center, double upgrade started at the 3 minutes, an all-in with 2-2 Stimpack combat shields. Now, it is a long walk, though, from here towards the 4th base in the natural. There's gonna be a lot of banelings along the way as well. Rattata has no idea, by the way. I mean, he's sitting at a healthy amount of workers. 71, actually, so I guess he does have an understanding. You know what? I take it back. Rattata actually, somehow, some way, seemed to have figured out, okay, there's the 4th CC finally starting up. +2/+2 is done. Combat shields, look at that, beautiful. Finishing up right around the same time. Actually, no, +2/+2 is finishing up right now. Good targeting there once again from Clem. He's already pushing right here at the front, trying to see if he can obtain the victory right here, right now. Banelings do collapse in on top of that Terran army, but look at the supply count right now. Clem actually grabbing himself a nice little lead, still pumping out a ton of Marines all here at once. 4th command center was started up, interestingly enough. Maybe that is on purpose, I'm not sure. Maybe he mismacroed for a second. 12 Marines being pumped out at once. +3 started at 8.5 minutes. Yeah, I've seen this build a handful of times. I think it was Hero Marine, but I might be mistaken. Clem is actually significantly ahead right now. 40 supply. Zerg is not going to be able to match this Terran army properly until 2-2 is done, and that's still like 45 seconds away. So until that point, Clem can do whatever he likes. I like this build, man. I mean, it's exceptionally greedy early on, but especially in like a best-of-3 and a best-of-5, certainly worth giving a try. Nice. I do think it's worth pointing out that Mr. Rattata was sitting at 70-something drones. You'll have many Zerg players at that point in the game sitting at like 80, 85, maybe even 90 workers, which would mean that their army at that point in the game would be much smaller. Like, their eventual army would be bigger, but Clem wasn't planning on, you know, having the game go the distance. That was pretty fun. That was a good opener. Obviously, the conventional triple CC start is also not, you know, risk-free. Certainly a build that you can accidentally lose with. But if you go for a Benchy, it's certainly a little bit safer, I suppose. Like triple CC into Benchy, you can still get at least a couple of those bad boys out, you know, flying up above as soon as the roaches hit. It definitely does make defending a little bit easier, but I can imagine that Clem is like, you know what? I played a greedy start as it is with the triple CC. Let me make it even greedier. So most of the StarCraft 2 strategies we see, they rely on either having a better economy or having a better army, right? But I guess Clem's build order just now kind of relied on him having better upgrades. A lot of Zergs recently have also been once again going Mutaling Bane. And with Mutaling Bane, you go for the Spire before upgrades. So if that would have been the case, I think that Clem would have probably finished 2-2 by the time that Zerg wouldn't even have... I don't know if 1-1 would have already been done. If you can hit Zerg in the face with 2-2 before 1-1 is done. It's actually ridiculous. So, by the way, for those of you unfamiliar, the way that upgrades work in StarCraft 2 is that every single unit deals additional damage to their base attack, right? So in the case of a Marine, I think a Marine deals 6 damage per attack. For every single one of those infantry weapon upgrades, they get +1. So in that battle, not only did the Marines, you know, deal 8 damage per attack, if their base damage is 6. I think it is. I might be wrong. Anyways, they also took -2 damage from every single one of those Zerg attacks because of the +2 armor, right? And the combat shields obviously adds additional health, and yeah, it adds up very quickly. So especially on units that are coming out in big numbers, like units like, for example, Marines, but also, for example, Zerglings, right? You have a lot of them, so you have a lot more units that then also benefit from those upgrades. If you compare it to, for example, like Protoss versus Terran, in Protoss versus Terran, usually it's all about, like, you know, having the right units at the right place at the right time. Upgrades are important, but you won't see... You know, you won't see as much benefit if you have 2 Immortals, right? If you were to have +2/+2 done, right? Having like 3 Archons and 2 Immortals doesn't really change a whole lot with the upgrades or without them, just because they already hit like trucks in the first place. Now, I do know that upgrades skill a little bit differently there, but point still stands. Generally speaking, smaller, faster attacking armies with smaller units, that is, they benefit from upgrades a whole lot more. Clem now going for a Reaper again. Okay, so hold up now. So it is a delayed Reaper opener right here from Clem. Going into an armory in the back. Okay. So Clem is playing some fun build orders today. This is kind of unfortunate though. Zergling gets in here. Okay. Luckily for the Terran, it didn't just run straight towards the ramp. Rattata, you've seen 4 Marines. Are we doing additional... Oh my god, it's 4 Marines into double Reaper right now? No, it's 1 Reaper. Wait, but did that 1 Reaper still not finish? Okay, maybe he canceled something? I'm not exactly sure what just now happened. In my mind, Reapers take about 5 seconds to produce, but maybe if it's later on into the game, it does take a bit longer. Anyways, what I'm trying to get at is that this is a bit of a strange opener right here from Clem. Once again, I guess having some fun, trying to outsmart the opponent. There's no Baneling Nest, no Roach Warren, none of that. It's just going to be Queens and Zerglings for the time being. Good control here, though, by Rattata. Pulling back the Weakened Queen, trying to get them to shoot as many of those spines as possible. Honestly, very good defense. Yeah. Yeah, not really running into a whole lot of problems there whatsoever. He did lose more Zerglings, obviously, here, but this does mean that there's not really going to be that much follow-up harassment, although usually the helmets are sacrificed as well, right, in a way. Usually, Terrans just kind of throw those away. I like the fact that Mr. Clem actually kept them around here. Now we do have a Roach follow-up. I think it's about a 4-minute Roach Warren. No, a little bit later, 420. 420 Roach Warren, as they say. I think they say that. Anyways, Lara's a follow-up too, so not a complete all-in at the very least. I would have liked to see a complete all-in here. Because once more, look at what we have, right? Like a complete Roach Ravager with a Link Flood as a follow-up. I think it would just straight up win the game. Anyways, what do we have right here from Clem? Stimpack at a relatively conventional time, but no Banshees, no Starports, none of that. Okay, this time around, the Hellions do once again run in. Brenda trying to block the ramp. Dude, I think if Rattata would have made non-stop Roachling, he would have just been able to obtain the victory right here now, right now. Because he would have just easily killed all of these Hellions. And then he would have been able to go for the counterattack, right? And since there's no Banshees out, I mean, sure, you're going to fight a Terran player with Stimpack, but they have 4 Marines. Yeah. Alright. Anyways, eventually all the Hellions do fall. With that, 10 drones as well. Then again, though, I can imagine the Zerg right here is scratching his head, trying to figure out what in the world's happening here. That was 4 Marines into, like, 2 Hellbats, into a Reaper? Like, what was happening there, right? Into a quick third command center and then eventually Stimpak. Yeah, if he had full map vision like we do, he probably would have made some different choices here, but... Clem, going for some wild stuff. I like it. As always, though, killing 10 drones at the cost of like 7 Hellions is actually not that great. I know a lot of Terrans are like, but I did a lot of damage, right? I have a lot of people that are like, Lowko, can you review my replay? I killed like 30 drones from the Zerg player and I still lost the game. And I have a look at the replay and they end up losing 4 battlecruisers for free, 17 Hellions, and then sure, they get maybe 24 drones, but turns out that's not a very cost-efficient trade. You know, I compliment Rattata, by the way, on the cruise thread in this series so far. It's been very good. This is, by the way, where playing that more passive, laid-back Zerg style is significantly harder. The problem is, if you don't really know exactly what your opponent is going for, it's also hard to make the right amount of units at the right time. So, since Clem is playing something that's kind of wild, your conventional unit timings are going to be thrown out of the window. Oh, that's a good scan! Kill them all! Dude. Alright, fine. We want to go for the Ravagers? I feel like that would have been more painful. At least mentally, you know? Maybe not resource-wise, but at least mentally. Oh. SCV right here, looking at his beautiful creation, forced to restart up the factory once more, because the siege tank on the high ground killed it. Anyways, SCV still has health, so it's all good, not a big deal. Look at the upgrades, though. The players right now are very in sync. So where do you usually go with Roach Ravager, right? So Roach Ravager is a bit of an awkward unit comp. For now, it's good. But especially as the Terran armies grow, you don't want to be maxed out on Roach Ravager. So you have to transition away from it at some point. That being said, Rattata has a massive army right now. 1-1 is done, Roach Speed is done. This is a Zerg timing attack. There are 4 siege tanks? Yes. 4 of them in setup in pretty good positions. This is a dangerous situation right now for the Terran player, but I think the tanks in the back are... especially the ones on the high ground here are really good. Okay, he is going to try and commit. Bunker is going to be emptied out right away. SCVs are starting to fall, though. Siege tank there in the back does end up going down. And 21, 23, 24, 25. That's a ton of SCVs here being picked off. He doesn't want to lose the whole army, though, on the back of this. Okay, goodbyes. As he says, goodbye. Okay, sorry. The retreating Biles. I like it. That was a chunky Zerg army going down there as well, though. 25 SCVs there. I really like the way that Rattata is playing this. I mean, in game number 2, he got caught off guard, right? Because, you know, Clem won by going for a tricky move. Careful, though. These units are super dead, aren't they? Okay, at least they still get a siege tank. This is awkward, though. He hasn't started up 2-2. So the problem here with not starting up 2-2 for the Zerg is that there's, like, no longevity here. And suddenly Clem is coming in from multiple angles. You know what's even better than a concave? A circle? That was a disaster. Yeah, concaves are, you know, the usual approach in StarCraft 2, but that was like a half moon. That was even better than a concave. Clem's favorite geometrical shape is the... it's the circle, I guess. Anyways, if you can come in from every angle like that, the Zerg army gets absolutely decimated. Heavy service advantage right there for Clem. Beautiful moves here, actually, by Clem, man. Keeping his head so cool in the scary moments of the game. Don't know if that was intentional, but obviously as a StarCraft commentator, you make the assumption that everything is intentional, right? Just because the players are so good, they're thinking 17 steps ahead. Clem finishing up 2-2. Zerg starting up 2-2. That is bad. That's really bad right here for the Zerg. Is that what I think it is? It's an orbital. Now, I feel like against Roach Ravager armies, planetary makes way more sense. But what do I know? I know nothing. Kind of like Jon Snow. That's a boomer meme. Sorry, didn't mean to be a boomer here. Are we gonna move the siege tanks around as well? Nah, we have 2 tanks over here. Clem a little late on the 3-3. Probably a bit concerned here about the heavy Zerg movement on the map. But he can slowly start grabbing the map control back. Oh, this is a really good catch. Yep. Couple of roach units. Couple of roaches, rather, for free. Dodging the biles. Okay. Yeah, so Rattata's approach here is just to make a lot of stuff and try to win the game with it. I would like it if he was going up against someone who isn't Clem. Okay, dude, the siege tanks over here are absolutely shredding that army. Ay, 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 ay. Great micro right here by the Frenchman, just absolutely punishing Rattata for still being stuck at Road Ravager at the 12-minute mark. And there's not going to be a transition either. Like, he is at 68 drones and a dream. That's it. It's just Road Ravager Ling. I don't really see him able to transition towards Hydras, Lurkers, Vipers, and all that, because if he does, he's spending money on things that aren't units, and at that point, Clem will just overwhelm him, even more so than he's already doing right now. Clem has set the rally point towards the other side of the map. He's finally adding on additional barracks as well. He's going into a 5th command center, but I'm not entirely sure that he needs it. Dodging biles left, right, and center. Hatchery at the 12 o'clock position does go down even the Viking lands. Okay, maybe a little bit overly aggressive, but GG is called. And eventually, despite being 1-0 behind, it is Clem who obtains the victory.